So let's get started. First off, this term slope. Where have we heard the word slope before?
On my computer.
On a game?
On my computer.
Slope's a game, right? It's like with the ball.
Yeah.
The little, like the green and black, and it slides. Yeah. Okay. So we've heard about slope from there. Anywhere else we've heard of slope? No. On a hill? Yeah, a hill has a certain slope. Anyone ever been skiing or snowboarding before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What is it called? It's called hitting the.
The gas.
No. Hitting the slopes. Right? You guys never heard that? No, I've never been skiing or snowboarding either. That's like a rich people activity, but
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it's called hitting the slopes, right? So when you think of slope, I typically think of like a mountain. Has anyone ever been hiking before?
Me.
Okay, good. Now if you're hiking, right, and I say, ooh, this mountain we got coming up is really steep, what does that mean?
It's like.
It's high,
it like
yeah.
goes like at an angle.
It goes at an angle, right? If I had a hill like this, right, or a hill like this, which of these would be easier for you to hike up? Number one
Number two.
or number two? Which one would be easier, number one or number two? Number two, right? Why is number two easier?
Because it's low. It's like more flat.
It's more flat, exactly, yeah. So this is going to be a lot easier, right? So this hill would have a small slope. This hill right here, I would call this more so a mountain than a hill. This is going to have a big slope or a large slope, okay? So the slope is the measure of how steep a line is. Typically, if we think about the real world, we think of mountains and hills, hiking and skiing. But in math, we're just looking at a line on a graph, okay? So let's fill in these blanks. Slope, in more mathematical terms, is the ratio. This is where our highlighters are going to come in handy. Okay, guys, are we okay? Okay, guys, we should be focusing on this, like I said, all right? So whatever business we can handle later, okay? We got to be talking about this. So with your highlighters, you're going to pick one color. Doesn't matter which color. If you have yellow and pink, perfect. You'll match with me. But it doesn't really matter. I'm going to highlight the change in Y value in one color. Okay? And in my other color, I'm going to highlight the change in X value. Does not matter which two colors you have, as long as we're being consistent when we're going through this, okay? So whatever color you picked for Y, that's your Y color. Whatever color you chose for X, that's going to be your X color, okay? Like we said, it's also the measure of how steep a line is. Bless you. Okay, so if we have a large slope, we've got a steep line. If we've got a more flat line, that's going to be a lot smaller of a slope. All right? And in the slope, have you guys played the slope game? Give me a thumbs up if you played that little slope game before. Yeah. So the whole point of the game is like a ball that's like rolling down a hill, right? And the steeper the hill is, the faster the ball goes, right? And the more difficult it is, right? But is there also kind of some flat slopes in that game?
No.
Yeah. No?
Yes, there is.
I hear a lot of people saying
I've
yes.
never seen any.
You might be on maybe more advanced levels, but it's the same idea. That's why it's called slope, right? Because you've got some steep slopes, you've got some flat slopes, not steep slopes, whatever you want to call it. Same thing. So to represent slope, we're going to use the letter M, okay? So off to the side, we're going to write slope. Why we don't use the letter S is, I don't know. But it doesn't matter. As long as we know that M is slope, we're good. We don't really need to know the Y. I'm sure it has something to do with Latin or Greek, because math is all about like that old, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter. Slope is M, okay? However you can remember that is great. And M is basically the same exact thing as K, except K is specifically for what type of relationships do you guys remember? Starts with a P? Proportional, right? So K is just for proportional. M can be for proportional, but more so it's going to be for non-proportional, all right? So again, with our same highlighters, my numerator is the change in Y. That was my yellow. And my denominator change in X, that was my pink. Whatever colors you have, just keep it consistent. So if you did green and blue, keep it green and blue. Yellow and orange, yellow and orange, right? What do you guys see in front of the X and the Y here in these parentheses? A little triangle. It's a little triangle. And what that triangle means is change. Okay, it's called a delta. It's a Greek letter. Okay? And it just signifies change. Okay, so my change in Y over my change in X. Now this sounds familiar to me. Let me flip back a couple pages because we've actually done this before, right? If I have a table here, these little arrows we've done, that is my change in Y. And these little arrows here are my change in X. If we remember, we put the Y over the X. Why aren't you over your X? To find what K is. M is the exact same thing. Except instead of looking on a table, we're going to be looking on an actual graph. All right? So it's pretty much the same thing we've been doing, just kind of represented in a different way. Another way that we could represent this is with the phrase rise over run. Sound familiar?
No.
No? Maybe. Up on the top, I'm going to write rise over run. You're going to hear me say that phrase about 100,000 times over the course of the year.
Rise over run.
Rise over run. Okay? Rise over run. Right? So think about it like this. If you rise in the morning, that's like you waking up, right? So you have to rise in the morning before you can go for a run. Right? You can't go for a run before you've risen. So rise goes first, run goes after that. Rise over run. Everybody say rise over run.
Rise over run.
Say it again. Rise over run.
Rise over run.
Good. I want you guys to really remember that phrase. Because if we flip it around, now everything's wrong. And we don't want that. Okay, so we got rise over run. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw what's called a slope triangle. You guys all know what a triangle looks like? Yeah? How many sides does a triangle have?
3.
3 of them. Good. So what a slope triangle is, it's just a visual representation, right? Something that's very easy for us to see of the change in Y. There it is again. I'm going to highlight it in yellow. And the change in X, or my run, that I'm going to highlight in pink from one point to another. Okay, I'm going to let you catch up with the highlighting for a second. See how it's looking. Go ahead and close this for me. Hold on. Thank you.
Oh, location.
Uh-oh. What's happening? It's going to make everything a lot easier with the highlights. Do you make one? Oh. Cool. Okay. I've never seen a great highlight.
Wow.
I like it though. Looks good. Great. So let's see what that looks like. That's a lot of background information. It can be a little bit confusing. Are we feeling decently fine so far?
Yes.
No? It's okay if not. Let's see what we're actually going to be doing, okay? To find our slope, we've got 5 steps. If you follow these 5 steps word for word, it's super easy, okay? But you have to make sure you're being very, very careful about the way you follow it. This first step is, we're going to start on the leftmost point. So if I'm looking at the blue point right here and the pink point right there, am I going to start at the blue or the pink?
The pink. The blue on it.
We're going to start at the blue because blue is on the left. Everybody hold out your hands like this. Now raise the side with the L facing the right way. That's your left hand, right? You guys ever learn that trick for left and right when you were a little kid? This way's backwards, so we don't want that. The correct way to write L, that's your left hand. L for left. TJ? I know, but I'm saying you're looking at it from your perspective. And the left one is the one that makes it L, right? So if I look down here, let me zoom out. Right, here's my hands. Now you can see it from my perspective, right? Over here is my L. So I'm going to start with the point closest to my left hand, which would be this point right here. So underneath it, I'm going to write the word start so I don't forget where I began this whole process. Again, if we don't start in the right spot, all the steps after this aren't going to matter because we're going to get all confused. You may be able, once we do this for a couple days, you might find a way that works better for you. That's great, right? We're going to start out all doing it the same way. So we're going to start right here. This is my starting point. And we want to think of this kind of like Apple Maps or Google Maps. Have you guys ever used that on your phone before to get directions somewhere? Okay. So let's say this is where you are. You're starting right here, and you want to get to this second point. Okay? Now, you could just drive straight through, right? Drive straight along that line to that second point. But if there's no road there, you've got to take the roads that you have. So we're going to have to go up a little bit, and then we're going to have to go over a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. Once we know where we're starting at, we're going to count the rise. Remember, you got to rise before you run. So rise is my number of spaces up or down. Okay, what direction is my rise again?
Right. I mean, left.
Take a look. What are my two options for rise?
Up.
Up or down. If I rise up in the morning, right, I'm getting up. I know you don't typically rise down at night. Good. You're one step ahead of me. You must have learned this before. So rise means we're going up or down. Here's my starting point. Let's see what that looks like. If I start right here, again, I want to end up over here at my friend's house. Am I going to have to go up the street or down the street? I'm going to go up the street. So I'm going to make the first leg of my triangle right there. Okay. How many spaces up did I just rise? 3. All we got to do is count the boxes. 1 box, 2 box, 3 box. I'm going to write a little 3 off to the side, just so I don't forget. Okay? There's step 2. Everybody cool on step 2?
Yes.
It's just counting, right? No real crazy math stuff just yet. Then we're going to count the run. Once you rise in the morning, now you can go for a run. So after we rise, we're going to run. And that's the number of spaces to the right. What direction are we missing? Left. Why will we never, if we're following these steps, why would we never run to the left?
Because that's backwards.
Because your next point is going to be right. How do you know that your point's always to the right?
Because you started that way and you go that way?
Because you start on the left, right? So if you start on the leftmost point, you're always going to be going to the right. And there's a very specific reason that we're going to do that. I'll explain that in a little bit. You're always going to run to the right. Has anyone ever played like a Super Mario game before?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mario Kart
So-
or the same?
Well, not in Mario Kart, but just like a typical Mario game where you like run and you jump on the boxes and you step on the mushroom guys or whatever. You're always running to the right in that game, right? If you try and go to the left, what happens?
You go to the wrong way.
You get blocked. You can't go. Or in some levels, you die, right? So think, if you're running, you're always running to the right, okay? So let's do that. We just rose up 3. Now we're going to run to the right. I'm going to do my second line in pink, or whatever color you have. And how many boxes did we
3.
just run over?
3.
3. My voice cracked. 3, right? And like we said, slope is my rise over my run. Rise over run. So all I'm going to do is put that in a fraction and simplify if I can. Okay. I'm going to highlight all this stuff. Take a moment. Highlight all your stuff. Change in Y is my rise. Change in X is my run. And we're still putting our Y over our X. Just like we learned, why aren't you over your X, right? Change in Y over the change in X. Okay, let's set up our fraction. How many units did I rise again?
3.
I went 3 units for my rise. How many units did I run?
3.
I ran 3 units as well. Good afternoon. Come on in. I'm going to have you just sit right here for now, buddy, okay? Abrar, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have you sit right here for now.
I know.
And just hang tight. I'll get you situated in a few minutes, okay, buddy? Wow. Okay, so we rose 3. We ran 3. Step 5 says to simplify. Can I simplify 3 over 3? Yeah, what is 3 divided by 3? 1.
Wow.
So, that's my slope. 1. Now, there's something we have to be mindful of, okay? Because our rise, right, was up. Okay, we started out on the left. We rose up 3 spaces. Because we went up, that tells me right away that my slope is going to be positive. This is what you were saying, Tariq, right? Because we rose up, my slope is positive. Therefore, this line has a slope of, I'm going to write m equals 1. M equals positive 1. While you're finishing that up, I'm going to get the second piece around to get glued in. And then, Abrar, don't worry about this for now, okay? I'll give it to you in a little bit. What's that? Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll pass this.
My legs are too strong.
So tough.
They can do that. Stop popping.
You guys go. You got you. And let's go. So I'm going to say we'll probably skip. Say let's skip that many pages just to be safe. And then you can, here, let me get you the first. Hold it right there. So do you want to do it like front, back, or do you want to do like front and then back? Either one works. I would probably just keep it open like this. And then I'm just going to take the glue, and you'll just glue both of these in, okay? Give me a thumbs up if you're all glued in, ready to go.
Me.
Okay, we'll take another 40 seconds.
I'm ready.
Real quick, if we look back to this line, one thing I did forget to mention. What do we notice about this line that's a little bit different than the lines we've been looking at? It does not go through the origin, right? Here's my origin. Even though it's a straight line, it doesn't go through the origin. Jaslyn, what does that make this? Non-proportional. Right on the top of that first graph, I want you to write non-proportional. It's a big old word. Right? Even though it's a straight line, it does not go through the origin. Another thing that's different too is that now we're looking at the whole graph. Right? If we go back on previous pages, we've just been looking at quadrant 1. So we would see something that looks like this. You guys see what I mean? We would just be seeing that first quadrant. That's why our origin was always on the bottom left. Let me show you what I mean. If we go back a couple pages, you see that? The origin's down there. That's because we cut off the left side, the bottom side, and the bottom left side. So now we're looking at the whole graph. Yeah? Oops. Yeah, the whole graph. So before it was just like this. What did we notice about the graph in example 2 on our new page? It does go through the origin. Is it a straight line as well?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So what kind of relationship do we have here? This is proportional.
Origin's right here. It's not at the bottom left. It's in the middle.
That's right.
Oh. Okay.
Again, if we were still in last week, all we would see is that. Right? Yeah, the origin was in the bottom left before, but in reality, it's in the middle of our entire graph, just like that. Okay? Oh yeah, I would go right there. And then I'll get you the other ones later. So, I'm going to start at the left. If I've got my blue point right here and my pink point right there, am I going to start at the blue point or the pink point? Blue. Why? Because it's on the left. Remember, boom. L, left. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to make an arrow and write the word start. Now, you're not going to have to do that on your work, obviously, but on our notes, I want you to know that we're starting on the leftmost point. Okay? From that point, again, we want to end up over here. So I'm going to count my rise before my run. We can't run unless we've risen, right? So from here to there, am I going to be rising up or am I going to be rising down?
I'm going to be rising up.
I'm going to be rising up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make my little line until I'm in line with my second point. Okay? And how many units up is that? How many little squares did we go?
That's three.
3 of them. So we rise 3 units up. Am I going too fast or is everybody with me?
I'm with you.
Okay. From there, I'm always going to run in what direction?
The right.
To the right. How many spaces to the right does it look like I'm going to have to go before I hit that point?
4.
4 spaces to the right. What did we just make on this graph? What did we just draw?
A triangle.
A triangle. There's our slope triangle. Okay, where the third line of our triangle is the actual line itself. Okay, we did the same thing on the previous page. I just didn't color it in. We made our little slope triangle over there. So if I want to find what my slope is, M is equal to my rise over my run.
Right.
What number was my rise for this problem again? 3. That's going to go on top. My run goes on bottom. How many did we run over?
4.
4. We ran over 4 spaces. So we went up 3,
Oh, I thought we were talking about
over 4.
talking about running over something.
Oh, no, sorry. Yes, we ran to the right 4. We ran over 4.
Right.
I see what you mean, yeah. We didn't run over 4 with our car. We ran over 4 spaces. Now, because we rose up, right, does that mean my slope was positive or negative?
Negative. I mean positive.
Positive, right? A way that we can remember this, right? If you've got your money up, what does that mean?
Then get your money up.
Okay, you can't get your money up. Yeah, is getting your money up a good thing or a bad thing?
A good thing.
It's a good thing, right? That means you got a lot of money. So if you got your money up, up is a positive thing. And I definitely spelled that wrong. Positive. There we go. Nice save, Mr. Church.
Buddy.
So if you got your money up, that is a positive thing. So if you're rising up, your slope's going to be positive. Now, can I simplify 3 over 4 at all?
No.
No. Should I write it as 0.75?
No.
No. Why should we not?
Because it's ugly.
Because it's ugly and
Ugly.
you just keep it as a fraction. And I hate decimals. Therefore, this line has a slope of m equals 3 over 4. Don't turn it into a decimal. Don't turn it into a mixed number. Don't turn it into a percentage. And this is the reason why I told you guys the past 2 weeks to keep your answer as a fraction. This fraction tells us very important information. It tells us that we rose 3 and we ran 4, right? So if, for example, I needed to continue plotting points following that pattern, I would need to know what my rise is and what my run is. 0.75 doesn't tell me anything about my slope. Okay, we rose up. That's going to be positive. Let's take a look at number 3, example number 3. I'm going to start at my leftmost point. Is that up here or down there?
Up there.
Up there. Okay. It's my leftmost point. Even though it's above the other point, Normally we were starting below. We're going left to right. So I start on the left. Does this line go through the origin?
No.
No. So what type of relationship is it?
Non-proportional.
Non-prop. I'm going to spell the whole thing to prove I know how to spell. So we're going to start on the left. Here's where it's a little bit different. If I'm starting right here and I want to end down there, am I going to rise up here or down?
Down.
Now I'm rising down. I'm going to make my first line going down. How many spaces down did we go? 4 of them. Now, because we went down, if you're feeling really down, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing.
It's a bad thing, right? That means you're sad. So down is bad.
Because you have to be happy.
Okay? You guys have heard the phrase down bad before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Down bad. Right? You don't want to be down bad. Okay? So when you rise down, that's bad. My answer is actually going to be
Bad.
negative. So we're going to, bad, yes, negative though. So we're going to throw a negative sign in front of my 4. Everybody do that real quick. Throw a negative in front of the 4.
Bro, you just hear him?
Now, even though I went down this time, I'm still running to the right because I started on the left, right? So how many spaces to the right am I going to run?
2 spaces.
2 spaces to the right. And we've once again made a little slope triangle there. We just had to drive south for 4 miles and then east for 2 miles, if we want to think of it like a map.
Wow.
So, what's my numerator going to be in my fraction? I heard someone say it. Negative 4. What's my denominator going to be for my run?
2.
2.
Positive 2.
Can I simplify negative 4 over 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is negative 4 divided by 2?
Negative 2, actually.
Negative 2, right? 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. Negative over a positive gives me a negative. Now this is important. Because the direction of our rise this time was down, our slope of this line is negative.
Going down.
Therefore, this line has a slope of m equals negative 2. Good. Sounds like you guys are getting this, which is great. We'll see when we get to the practice if we are. So leave your answer as a fraction. If you're rising down, that's going to be negative. If you're rising up, it's going to be positive. Jinx, right? How are you guys feeling? Thumbs up, down, sideways? You feeling okay?
Okay.
Good. If your thumb is sideways, that's great. Yes, that is great. Because once we get to the practice, it'll make a lot more sense.